record this. So, understanding lighting definitely will help enhance our character models. It'll help us create better textures, help us kind of tell better stories. And once you start thinking of it in a way of enhancing the story of our character, enhancing the story of our model, it will definitely help you light in that direction, right? So if they tell you, all right, I need a character that is supposed to be super creepy, right? You might go for a single light under the chin, right? That'll emphasize the drama, right? If you want to go for something more of a portraiture look for a character, right, you will do a basic 3-point lighting setup. If you wanted something that looks more heroic, right, you're going to want to do something that is, kind of side to side, that emphasizes the character's rim and add a nice glow to them and things like that. So these are the types of things that lighting can definitely do. It'll definitely help us tell a better story, definitely help us convey our message whenever we're modeling just a little bit better. All right, so let's dig into this. Right, so the objective of this lecture will be to understand the components of 3-point lighting, apply lighting in ZBrush to enhance our character sculpts, use light to create mood, drama, heroism, softness. Right, these are the things that lighting can help us create. Learning the basic lighting philosophies for presentation, understanding lights in the terms of kelvins and lumen, right? Warm light versus soft light, the intensity, going from warm kind of light to almost daylight, So that will definitely be what we're going to try to learn, all right? So what does color temperature mean? Color temperature describes the color of light emitted from different types of bulbs. The technical term for this is correlated to color temperature, which is CCT. Different color temperatures create different visual effects and are appropriate for different environments. Color temperature is measured in Kelvin on a scale from warm to cool. All right. The warmer the light, the lower the number of Kelvin. The cooler the light, the higher the number of Kelvin. So if we're talking about a warm bulb, a regular bulb in your house, right? You're going to want something 2700 Kelvin to about 3000 Kelvin. Then you get to a white light, which is about 3500 Kelvin. And then anything up above that almost goes into like a bluer kind of light. And then you get to daylight about 6000 Kelvin. All right. A cool white kind of almost has like a bluish tint to it, right? So color temperature versus lumen. Lumen is a measurement for the brightness of light. The higher number of lumens, the brighter the light. In the past, we relied on watts to show the brightness of the bulb. However, with the rise of energy-saving LED lighting, wattage simply doesn't give us enough information. A standard 40 watt CFL bulb will produce the same amount of lumens as a 5 watt LED. So this usually helps us kind of describe like ambient lighting, which is the standard lighting, whether natural or artificial. It simply exists to illuminate the room essentially. So ambient lighting is just like a simple kind of the overall lighting is how I like to think about ambient lighting. It's like an overall light. If you put on a light in your room or your office or the living room, that light that spreads kind of everywhere is ambient lighting, right? Then we talk about accent lighting, which is focusing light on a particular area or object. It is often used to showcase objects like art or decor. So, warm color temperature. Color temperature describes the appearance of the light emitted from different types of bulbs. Different color temperatures are appropriate for different environments. Color temperature is measured in Kelvin, and options most commonly range from 2700, which is warm, to about 6500 Kelvin, which is daylight. The warmer the light, the lower the number of Kelvin. We've discussed this already. So, when you talk about 2000, it's like almost like an orange light, and then 3000 gets a little warmer. It's less warm, but you're still in that warm range. 4000 still warm. 5000 you're getting to white light. Then you're gonna start getting into daylight. Then almost that bluish LED white light that you see all the time. So, does color temperature affect lumens? When it comes to LEDs, yes. The higher the Kelvin temperature, the cooler the light. The whiter and brighter it gets. So higher Kelvin temperatures means higher lumens, right? And if you're using Unreal Engine, they've switched their conversion from LED or from Kelvin to lumens, right? There's a whole thing about lumens now in Unreal, and that's how they kind of calculate their lighting. So you'll often find bright white light in workplaces and hospitals because it provides good visibility, which suits working environments. The lower the color temperature, generally, the darker and more like candlelight it is. Perfect for creating more of a relaxing atmosphere. If you want something to relax yourself, you want a more chill atmosphere, you want to put warm light in there, right? Because it's easier to go to sleep, it's easier to relax, right? Because it's kind of like a candlelight, right? So that kind of lets you relax a little bit more. While on the other hand, white light will make things look more sterile, more clean. It'll keep you more up, more alert, right? So when it comes to the classic CFL style bulbs, the whiter the color temperature, Kelvin, does not mean the brighter the bulb or lumen, right? That's when you're using the classic bulbs. So here's a guide in your home for what I usually, this is how my house is kind of lit right now, which is, my living room has warm lighting. The bedroom is warm because you're going to go to sleep there, right? The kitchen, warm lighting. You can also use cool lighting, but my kitchen is warm. Bathrooms can have a cooler light in there, right? 4000 kelvins. And then when you're doing tasks, like my office right now, my office space, it's using a lot of white light. Let me show you guys. Kind of like you can see that, let me turn off these lights here. You guys can see that these kind of lights are more white light. Let me see if I can get to this. I can't get to this one, but these lights that I have are way cooler than they are warm. And this one I can actually turn it into, right, more of a warm, as you can see on my cheek here, right? The further I turn it, the bluer, right? The bluer that gets, right? And then I can dim the lighting, right? Dim it off completely, right? It's more of a white light right now. And then if I wanted to, I can definitely turn it more warm, more of a warm, almost like 3000 Kelvin kind of light. So that's pretty much the basics. So why use warm lighting? Warm lighting helps create a comfortable and soothing atmosphere, which is best for relaxing. Cool light, this is generally kind of an all-arounder for the light color world, all purpose. It's great for activities requiring focus in well-lit areas. So whenever I'm working, right, white light helps me kind of stay focused. Anything from cooking and shaving will be covered by this light. All right, so when you want to use daylight, it's most energizing to us because the name suggests it mimics daylight. It's great for anything that requires our utmost attention, or energy. So much so that the more workplaces kind of replacing their fluorescent lights with more of a daylight LEDs. All right. So throughout a typical day, we we subject our eyes to UV rays from sunlight and traditional lighting. And this is just a little kind of FYI. When I was going through all the information on lighting online, and I wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of this because it's important to know how light affects your eyes, right? These UV rays can cause some serious damage if you're overexposed to them. LED bulbs are known to be better for the eyes. This is because they emit much less damaging UV rays than other lighting. A combination of daylight mimicking LED light in your office or work environment means that your workers could be more productive and have much healthier eyes. All right. So research does suggest a correlation between light levels and performance in the workplace. Natural daylight, think about it. Like if your office is dark all the time, you're going to be tired, you're going to be sleepy, you're going to be, you're going to want to just lay down, put your head down on your desk, and, it'll make you less productive. And I have had office buildings and workspaces that are super dimly lit, and it makes it super hard to really stay awake and focus, where like you're having to step outside for a couple seconds just to be, and then maybe they'll make it even super cold in there or something. So like now it's like you're bundled up in the office, you're sitting there, you're like, all right, man, I'm about to pass out. Let me go take a walk outside. You walk outside in the daylight, you get a little bit of sunshine on your face, you get a little bit of the daylight UV rays, and you feel better. You're more energized. You can go back and put a couple more hours in. All right. So natural daylight is the best kind of lighting for optimal productivity. However, there aren't many offices that can have access to constant daylight. The next best thing is to mimic natural daylight with artificial light. As you can see above, 6,000 offers the best, closest we can get to natural daylight. However, 4,000 Kelvin cool white can also work. Bright white light positively affects our mental health, in addition to helping us complete intricate tasks that are much harder to undertake without artificial light. Precision working in particular will work better closer to 400 Kelvin cool light. So you do, even if you try to notice the light whenever you go to different places. Like think about like when you go to a hospital, when you go to, Walmart, right? Look at the kind of lighting that they have in there. These lights are supposed to energize you, keep you there. And then you maybe go to a lounge, right? A bar, somewhere that's supposed to be relaxing for you. They're going to use calmer, cooler light. Think about, nightlife, right? If you think about bars and things like that, they're not putting in bright fluorescence in there. No. We want you to be chill. We want you to relax, right? So lighting itself plays a role in our mood, right? Our mental health, our mental, how we perceive different things, And there's some places that they keep it dark on purpose, but that's part of it. Lighting affects so much about us. So on that note, I want to get into 3-point lighting. Right, 3-point lighting is pretty much the basic standard for lighting anything. Right, there's all sorts of different lighting formulas, lighting philosophies, but 3-point lighting is one of those standards that just kind of it sticks around. Right, people use it all the time. It's the go-to method for a lot of different creations and lighting setups and different things like that. So when it comes to just a standard lighting setup in photography and in 3D, you're not going to get any better really than 3-point lighting, right? And then what you can branch out to is, right, single lighting, 4-point, 5-point, 6-point lighting with rim light, adding color, right? You can then start to mix, match, right, to create different moods, different feelings, right? Areas of interest. If think about a spotlight, right? Everything is dark except for that figure, whatever you're illuminating. It's a down light, right? It's a light that comes from above, shines down on, if you think about somebody on a stage, right? Now your focus, it draws all of your focus to that single spot, right? That single spot on the stage, this person, this performer, right? We use light to draw attention, right? We use light to describe visually different aspects of our model, right? So there are three main lights when it comes to 3-point lighting. We're talking about the key light, the fill light, and the rim light, all right? So when we talk about the key light, this is the main source of light, all right? This is what's going to give you most of the information that you're going to get. It's usually about a 45-degree angle from the camera. It controls the drama and the facial visibility, right? So then you're going to add your fill light, right? It's weird because I always felt like these should be flipped, like the naming of it should be flipped, because the key light almost fills the room, and then the key light does what the fill light, the naming, should do, right? But the fill light softens the shadows, right? This is what gives you it. You almost want to work like you're trying to get rid of all these extra shadows in your portrait or your character, your model or whatever. You're going to add a fill light, right? Opposite of the key light. So if you got your key light, this is your camera, you're going to want to put your fill light right over to the side over here, opposite of it. It reduces the contrast and can simulate kind of like a bounce light. All right? And some of these, like you can start to see, you can start to maybe add a little bit of color, start introducing color to this. All right? And then the rim light kind of placed behind, or sometimes it's known as a backlight. And this will kind of give you almost like a halo or like an edge around your character. And what this does really well is it helps to separate your character from the background, right? It'll push the character in more into the field of view, and it'll push the background a little further back, giving you more of that silhouette that you're gonna get, that cool silhouette, right? And an edge highlight, right? It's used for epic, kind of heroic or mysterious looks. And, right, like I said, if you start to add color into it, it can add more drama into your photography, your 3D models, your films, right? Lighting does so much for a lot of the things that we do. So when you're thinking about this setup, this is provided to us by Studio Binder. You can find them online. They do a lot of good work. Man, the guys at Studio Binder, I think it's software, an app or something, but they do a lot of really, really, really cool breakdowns of films, how films are staged and lit. There's a really good one that they do on framing and staging and compositing that, man, I still refer back to every once in a while just because of how good they broke it down. I might even show it one of these days just for our staging and compositing aspect of this class. All right, but 3-point lighting, right? The orange or the yellow kind of gradient guy here is our subject, right? Imagine your camera is here. What you're going to want to do is you're going to start with our key light, then our fill light, which is going to take our shadows, right? You can see what it does to the shadows. It's going to push the shadows back. And then we're going to get our backlight here. That's going to give us the rim of our character. So that's a basic, very basic 3-point lighting setup. And when you're using it inside of ZBrush, which we're going to hop into next, it comes in a bunch of different ways. Lighting in ZBrush is very, very interesting because there's a lot of different little bells and whistles and knobs and environment setups that you can do that will really kind of overwhelm you at first, but once you kind of understand what's going on, you can start to kind of make your own decisions better, right? So you're going to use the light palette or the LightCap. You're going to adjust the light position in the sphere, control the shadows, intensity, the softness, and the color, and then you can even save your light setups to reuse it later. All right. So when we talk about a matte cap, where a matte cap is a material with light information baked in as an image. As soon as it is created, you can't change the light information in matte cap. While a standard material can be affected by the scene light, the LightCap designer lets you manipulate light information at creation time. But as soon as you change to another ZBrush project or restart ZBrush, you will not be able to change the MatCap light information. You can, however, individually save your LightCap in its own file format. Also, another difference is the settings available for both materials and MatCaps. Materials let you tweak and modify a large amount of settings and mix different shaders together through the shader mixer, while a MatCap can be more globally manipulated through the textures in which it was composed of. MatCaps interact with the model geometry, mainly through the cavity information. So that's like the crevices, right? When we talk about like maybe like a dimple or something, right? Those kind of things affect the MatCaps information. All right. So with our model, if you go into, right, if you want to mess with your LightCaps, right, you're going to go into this light right over here in your menu. And if you drag this menu, you can dock it over here so it doesn't go anywhere. You can dock it to the left so it doesn't go anywhere. All right. And then you have your light properties, your redshift light properties. If you have redshift installed on your machine, you can use redshift as a renderer. You can also change the background, let it affect the reflections and the specular of the model and different things like that. So we're gonna go through a lot of this stuff in this next kind of portion of it. All right. So LightCap with environments. A LightCap can be created directly from the background textures that is loaded into the background sub palette. By analyzing the background's high and low intensity values and their colors, lights will automatically be created at correct positions and accurate intensity of lights, with shadows turned on for lights above the horizon line. This one-click operation can create most, if not all, of your lights ready to be edited in a LightCap designer system. So you want to read the background sections for more information about the LightCap from the background image. And I'll show you guys how to create one of those real quick. So you want to create some mood through your lighting. Dramatic lighting. You want a strong key light, low fill light. For more heroic lighting, you want a rim light and maybe an angled key light. All right. For soft natural, you want a front key light and a gentle fill, right? And then you want to adjust the colors warm, cool, and then they contrast each other. And sometimes the best that I've seen is like warm on one side, cool on the other side, and it gives you very, very nice lighting. All right. So lighting philosophies, I mean, they vary. For realistic lighting, you want to mimic natural lighting. For cinematic, you want to direct the viewer's attention, right? It comes from the cinema, right? It comes from when you go to to a play and they shine a spotlight on a single character, right? This focuses the viewer's attention to that one character, that one place on the screen, all right? Stylized lighting exaggerates form with light, and hero lighting is used for more portfolio shots. So now I want to kind of jump right into ZBrush and show you guys lighting in general. All right. So when it comes to lighting inside of ZBrush, well, we've got our character here, and I've got like kind of an environment kind of set up for him. And I told you guys, right, to get started with our lighting, what I've done is I have turned off all of my basic light switches, and I'm going to start messing with the MatCap. So if I turn this on, you guys can see that I'm turning on these different lightings. All right. So this will be the first one I'll show you guys how to manipulate. All right. So if I turn on this light, you can see based on our sphere. Let me drag it and let's dock it here. All right, all I've done is I've gone to my light properties here and I docked it over here. All right. So now that I've docked it, we're going to mess with our light right here. So to mess with our light placement, right, we can just start moving it around. So if I click it, it's going to switch it from the front to the back. Right, so now I'm affecting the back of the model with this light. If I click it here, now I'm affecting the front of the light. All right. So just basically, if we followed our 3-point light setup, right, what you're going to want to do is you're going to make a key light, right? We're going to maybe place our key light right over here. Right over here somewhere. Then if I turn this guy on, right, now this will be our fill light. I can reduce my intensity. This will be our fill. And then if I turn this guy on, right, I'm going to put this, click on it to put it on the back and turn it to white. And then let me increase the intensity so you guys can see it. Maybe change it to a different color. And then I can use this as my kind of backlight. Whoops. And then I can even increase the distance. Change the ambience. So this is one way to light. And then if I hit my BPR settings, right, you can see what I'm getting there. So using this, I can then reduce the intensity. Right, let's see, turn this one off. Turn this one off. So if you want to troubleshoot to see what's going on, you can turn off the other lights, right, to see what is going on. Increase the intensity. Right. Turn this guy on. Alright, this is going to give us a red underlight. So I want to turn these off. And this will show us what this rim light is doing. You can see it. Then you can do a BPR render. So in ZBrush, what you really want to do is you want to kind of use a combination of both. I want a combination of your matte caps and your lighting. All right, so I've turned off all of those, and I want to start creating light caps so I can show you guys how to create light caps. It's the same thing as using this little orange dial to move it, but here in the light cap, let me delete this one. So there's no light information right now. So I want to create a light cap. All right, I'm using that skin shade model that I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say new light. All right, so this new light has been created, and then I can use this little red dot to move my lighting information around, right? And I can use that same thing to create the key light, right? Maybe increase the strength a little bit, right? Then let me bring it down a little bit like so. Then I'll create a new light, right? This guy we'll call our fill light, and then we can bring this guy on over here, right? Increase it a little bit too. All right, then we can create another one. I mean, we can even increase the fall off. This will make it either sharper, right, a sharper or a softer light. All right, and then I can create another one, and this can be our backlight, kind of rim light information right there. So like it gives us that. And to better see it, sometimes I like to add color to it, right? And you can see how this is kind of working, right? You can see that now I've introduced a little bit of this rim kind of feel to our model, right? And the more you add, the more lighting, the more environment stuff you add to your model, the longer these renders are going to take, the longer your BPR render settings are going to take. So you got to keep that in mind for whatever you're creating. All right, so this is what we're getting so far. Pretty cool. All right, we're getting some highlights. We've got a little bit of our rim here, and with our rim, we want to kind of make it more of a hot, and then you can increase that intensity. You can see how that is starting to kind of give us that definition over there. So we're getting more of this. All right. So this is just a basic 3-point lighting setup. I might go, and if you want to switch, go back to the different lights, right? You're going to, this light index will take you back to the lights that you've created, right? Might want to bring this guy a little closer over, then go to the first one, do the same, all right? So this is kind of like a basic lighting setup that you guys can do. So another thing that you can do is you can create a basic environment based on the textures that you're getting. So I'm going to do new light. I'm going to put this one right in front. This one's pretty cool. You can even add like a texture to it. I'll just add something funky so you guys can see. So I'm adding a texture to this light. So now I'm getting some more texture information in there. Right, so this, just added this to it. You can even add alphas, right? You can add alphas to then affect the model itself. Right, you can affect the tiling of the alphas, right? Right, this is how you would delete a light if you wanted to delete it, remove it from the thing. So let me create an environment based on our lighting information so far. Right, so now it's created our environment based on just this that we have so far. Right, so another thing you can do is you can go in and you can create a background, right? If you don't want to use the one that's created from there, you can go in here. If you have a texture that you want to bring in, you can bring it in, but you can also bring in your own, you can bring in an environment texture. All right, so I'm gonna hit this LightCap, and I'm gonna hit reflect, and what that's gonna do is, let's do LightCap, right? It'll reflect our surroundings on our model. All right, and we can blur the environment. If you increase the samples, I'm going to turn on the LightCap here. Get our BPR settings. So as you can see, there's a lot of different parts of lighting inside of ZBrush, right? Different things, different lighting setups do different things, right? So you're gonna want to mix and match and to get yourself the best lighting. And whenever you're done with that, and you hit your BPR render or your BPR settings or whatever, then you can save out the maps, bring those maps into Photoshop, and then composite those inside of Photoshop. All right, so that's probably what we're gonna do next class. Is I'll show you guys how to composite all of these maps together inside of Photoshop. You guys should have access to Photoshop, I believe. It should be part of your the packages that come with, you know, being a student here. So we'll use that to kind of create our final render, right? And then when we use that to create our final render, we can then do maybe a little more photo bashing and different things like that to really take our models and our renders to the next level. All right. So like I said before, the more you add, you're adding environment, you're adding different textures to it. You're adding different alphas to your lights and different things like that. You're really customizing this LightCap. And LightCap just means how lighting is captured on our material over here. You guys can see that we're starting to get something much more interesting. And then you can start, you know, like I said, I like to kind of use these in combination together, right? So I might start with the light itself and then go into the LightCap, mix vice versa to kind of give me the best possible results. All right, so whenever you've done your BPR render, right, your renderer, you will go here. So this right now it says preview. I can make it the best, right? I can click best, and then if I go to my render passes, it saves out all of my render passes for me. All right, and then even in the render properties here, let me turn on my ambient occlusion, and that's like the cavities and different things like that. If I do BPR render, it's going to take quite a bit of time. I didn't turn off subsurface scattering because that'll take it up even more, but this is how, you know, you would kind of get your base render out of ZBrush to then composite inside of your other softwares. All right. So for your assignment, I want you guys to mess around with the light caps. Give yourself maybe choose, do the 3-point lighting setup, and then maybe do like a dramatic lighting setup where you've got, one key light or one fill light, under light to kind of get that feel. And I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here in a second. Right? Because once you understand the basic setup, right, of like 3-point lighting, right, he's super shiny right now. He shouldn't be this shiny. But once you get kind of understand it, you can break the rules and start to kind of give yourself some more interesting models and things like that. So, yeah. Do you guys have any questions for me so far about the assignment, lighting, lights in general, philosophies, anything like that? Okay. Well, if you guys don't have any questions for me, I'm going to show you guys this last little piece of it, and then we can go from there. All right. So and then if we go into our render, passes, you can see that it has now updated our new renders. And then now we have our ambient occlusion as well. This is a mask, subsurface scattering. I didn't turn that on, but it would add that there as well. All right. So if I wanted to do more of kind of like a dramatic lighting, let me turn off these reflections. They're kind of crazy. I turn off the background. Let's go into our LightCap over here. So we're looking at the specular reflections right now. This is our diffuse. This is what the specular reflections look like. So turn off this texture, right? Because that texture is what was giving us that those reflections on there. All right. So for something like this, it's got 17 light indexes. I'm going to delete all of them just to show you guys what kind of dramatic lighting would look like. So then I would take my light over here, right? And you can start to see how, right, if I got one light here, how it would make our character look a little creepier, right? It would take him, and from this happy-go-lucky, if I moved it up here, right, it really changes the mood of everything, right? Whether it's on the side, right? Even this is a little more dramatic, right? This one-sided lighting, right? You've got, the other side more in shadow, right? Maybe increase that, right? So things like that will definitely affect how we perceive. It's like this guy's about to tell you a spooky story or something along those lines, right? He's around the campfire and he's going to tell you something, right? This is what that kind of lighting would kind of give you, right? Right. And then if you want something dramatic as well, right, like I said, another singular lighting would do the same. But when you start to add more lighting to it, right, when you start to, right, you see how, think about it like this, like you're seeing the shadow. This is what's going to be in shadow, right? We've got this line, and then if I wanted to add, I would add one right in the middle here, maybe increase the index of it right there. We increase the fall off. You can start to see how we can start to generate something more interesting. All right. So let me add another light. This one I might maybe color it. Let's go maybe like a blue light. And then maybe increase the strength of it a little bit. And what I found is, some of the most interesting lighting that I've done for like some of my pieces, it's usually like when I have like a cool on one side, right? And we add another one, and then I'll have something warm on the other side. So like I'll have like maybe like an orangey kind of light, even like something closer to that. And what that does is it kind of gives you like this dual lighting setup. Let's do 3. Reduce the intensity of that. 2, 1. Reduce the intensity. Right, so you can see I've got warm on one side, cool on the other side. All right, so this gives a very interesting kind of look to our character. All right, and we can so now it's on the back. Right. Let's delete, 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 delete. And now we're back to the character in shadow. And you can do the same setup with this guy, where you have something like this, where you would go, red on one side. Like, even some of this will give you some of that drama, the dramatic, very, very, very intense color, intense feeling, mood, right? This kind of screams danger, right? But then I can add a blue, something cool to the other side. All right. Increase the intensity. Turn it on. Right. You can see that I'm getting something interesting because now there's a contrast of warm and cool. Right. And then maybe if I turn this guy on, I can introduce maybe a fill light. This guy's still red. Let's go back to white. I have a white light. Reduce the intensity to 0.2. Right? If we want to make this guy look creepy, then we can take this light, bring it under. Right? So all of those principles can still apply wherever you are, whatever lighting setup you're using, right? See how quickly we can get something more dramatic, right? This is more uniform, more heroic. Sad, creepy man. Oh, happy man, I can walk down the street. Don't come my way. This is Batman's constant lighting right here, So, that is today's lecture on lights, lighting, Kelvin, temperature, all that fun stuff. I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with your renders. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the chat, or you can email me or send me a message, direct message or anything. I'm very quick to respond to any of those. All right. It's Ty. It's been fun. I will see you guys on Monday.